had this case set for a status conference back on March 27th of 2020, which I canceled because the best as I recall back about that time was when the Supreme Court had started ratcheting down any type of essential in-person proceedings. And they just kept limiting and limiting. And I thought it was probably at the time, because of the COVID-19 issues, probably good that we delay that hearing. And I've had this file sitting on my desk thinking that, each week we'd probably go ahead and move forward and get it set, but there was always new developments and it just kept delaying things. So, but we've been aware of it and working, getting ready to keep moving forward. I decided that we were not going to let it sit any longer, that we were going to move forward and at least have a status conference to find out. When we last were here, I know that we had, y'all had agreed on certain agreed orders dealing with DNA testing, and at that time, the projected time frame was that it was going to be probably a year to get the testing back. And so hopefully in anticipation of today's hearing, hopefully y'all have have it back or y'all have done your due diligence and been checking to find out the status of that. So I'll just start with that because that really is the single biggest thing that I'm aware of that is a typical trial delaying issue in really any criminal case, but particularly capital murder cases. So, Mr. Vance, I know you've maybe not had complete involvement, but you had some involvement in this case. And since Mr. Putman is not here, I'll turn to you now.
And Judge, it's my understanding that there's been communication with the DPS lab, recent communication. They've indicated to us their anticipated date on which they believe that they'll be completed with the DNA analysis. The best they could tell us was sometime in September. Obviously, the new delays with the pandemic have made things a little more complicated, but we recently checked with them, and it's my understanding that sometime in September is when they anticipate that the testing will be done.
All right, and I think either defense counsel, that my recollection was, I didn't look close, I went back through the file, but my memory was one of the last orders I entered was an agreed order between the state and the defense to have certain things sent to the DPS lab to be tested. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor. And I visited with Mr. Putnam yesterday, and he advised me as to what Mr. Vance has just advised the court.
All right. So it's already August, so September will be here pretty fast. Once that testing's back, realizing that COVID-19 has impacted a lot of different things. I'm sure it probably has impacted the DPS lab ability to process things as well. But once that's back, is the case basically ready to move forward, or does either side expect there to be other issues that would be trial delay?
Your Honor, go ahead.
No, Mr. Haas, go ahead. That's fine.
Your Honor, it somewhat depends on what the DNA testing reveal. We have been in contact with the defense expert. Of course, we don't have anything to send to them now. We don't know what the results are. If we need defense testing, that obviously is going to take some time, but I can't advise the court if that's going to be necessary at this time.
All right. That would be the only thing that you would see to be trial delaying at this point.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Vance, you're going to chime in too, so I'll recognize you.
It was basically what Mr. Haas was saying. Certainly nothing at this time that we're aware of, as we know now, that would lead to any potential delay, but a lot of that depends on what comes back with the DNA testing and if there's any sort of defense testing done. But that's the only thing that I could see as being any sort of potential delay going further at this time with what I know, Judge. All
right. Well, what I'll ask y'all to do, because I didn't find anything of a need that the court we probably need to take action on. It looked like the state's last discovery supplement was filed on July 31st, which added some crime scene reports and some type of additional disclosures to the defense. But I haven't had any recently filed motions on either side. I think the last filings were a long time ago, as I'll say, without going back through the particular filings. So I know that Judge Kennedy has one or two capital murder cases that have been delayed because the defense lawyers in her case, or the case that I recall her talking to me about, were actually defense lawyers in a capital murder case in Dallas that was, I think they were in the midst of getting ready to start individual voir dire in Dallas when the COVID-19 hit, and that case seems to probably have some type of priority over the Smith County case, at least in her court. So I don't know what the schedule on that one is. I don't think I guess the state here would be involved, but I'm aware of that one. I'm not aware that Judge Skeen has any pending right now, but he may. But again, I'll just direct both Mr. Vance and the two defense lawyers to get me, I guess, we'll just call it conflict dates over the next year from now till a year from now. That would give me some idea of where y'all might already be committed. I realize that I think all the trial courts across the state are kind of in the same boat or situation, if you will, that back in April and May, I started setting cases for early August because I was reasonably confident we would be back to maybe not full speed, but we'd be back trying cases by now. And of course, that has not come to pass. So I know there's similar issues for every trial court in the state, both at the district court and county court at law levels. I know y'all experience those too. And of course, capital cases have a longer timeline, if you will, in getting those set. So those are typically pretty easy to reach out and get dates where y'all don't have any conflicts that would impact you. And that way you can let other courts know you've already been set. So I do want to get a scheduling order entered and get us moving that direction, which I know y'all do too. So if y'all will get me your list of conflict dates within 10 days, if that's not too much trouble for y'all, then that will work for me, and I'll be at least working on getting a scheduling order in draft form that I don't know that I'll enter it until we actually get confirmation that we're going to be back to starting to have jury trials. Because if Judge Charles's speculation that they could push the start date back into 2021 for regular jury trials, then I know that impacts everyone. So going ahead and setting something before we kind of have a fairly firm date of resuming jury trials, I don't think it's probably, well, it may be wasted motion for everyone, and I try to keep everybody's emotions down as low of an impact as I can. So I guess with that, again, I will shoot to have another status hearing at least in about 60 days via Zoom. So far their orders say we're supposed to be doing Zoom for everything essential and non-essential that we can. I know there's some trial courts here in our courthouse as well as in other counties that have kind of gone back almost to normal activities, which is not what the Supreme Court order directs us to do. So that's what we're trying to do to comply with the orders that we've been given. And with that, anything further on the state side?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
On the defense, Mr. Haas?
No, sir.
Mr. Castle?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Henderson, I've told you every time I have you here that I don't require you to tell me anything. And we do have a breakout room available here that I could put you and your lawyers in, but I always like to try to let the defendant tell me anything if the defendant needs to tell me anything. So you have anything that you either need to tell me now or that you need me to send you to a breakout room to visit with your lawyers about now?
No, sir.
All right. And I know you've been on Zoom before because the lawyers have to communicate with you, I think, according to what I've been told the sheriff requires through Zoom. So you're kind of familiar with this. So you've heard scheduling. I don't really have any dates to give to you right now, but we'll again hope that the DNA testing is back in September as estimated, and hope that it's adequate for the defense and they don't need to do further testing, which would create additional delays. And if so, then once we can get started back having jury trials, your case will be one of the priorities for this court. All right, with that, I'll turn off YouTube and let y'all go.